Hi everyone. Today's introduction, it's a lesson introduction to the reading for the next Gallagher chapter, chapter 7, which is on the speaking and listening standards, and of course Gallagher's concerns and what he likes about the standards. So chapter 7 begins or features this quotation from Gallagher. I've got it up here on the screen so you can see it. On page 159, Gallagher says, "Many of our students come from classrooms where there seems to be an implicit belief that the subtle skills of active listening and reasoned speaking will develop simply through children's involvement in whole class and small group dialogues." So in other words, as teachers, we tend to assume that just by, having a whole class discussion, students will become good discussers. Or just by having students talk in groups, students will become good discussers. And although that type of practice is important, Gallagher says it's not really the type of deep practice, the type of skills-based practice that students are really going to need. So there's a couple implicit claims here. One of them is this sort of idea of 21st century literacies. Like, in the world we live in, we need to be better speakers and we need to be better listeners, and our students don't always get those skills. We're not always intentionally, deliberately teaching those types of skills that our students need and that we should be. And so he says, then he goes on to say, and while it's true that children will develop their language skills through this type of turn and talk practice found in schools, students need much deeper practice before they will become listeners and speakers who thrive in an ever more complex world. So Gallagher's chapter makes that claim, and then, like in true Gallagher fashion throughout the rest of the book, he gives lots of ways that he does that. So you'll find that you'll probably like some of them, and you'll probably like some of them not as much. Some of them you may think give very deep types of practice, and some of them you may say, oh, this doesn't seem actually to be a very deep type of practice. So definitely keep your critical minds on, but of course think, what can he offer us? And then where can we go even deeper? Like, where could we come up with even better things? So, this is something that I've noticed as I've been working with student teachers and other teachers as well, is lesson plans often say, okay, your homework for the night was to read chapter 2 of Gatsby. The lesson plan for the next day is discuss chapter 2 of Gatsby. So this sort of especially coming straight out of college where discussions tend to be richer, in your lit classes with other lit majors, in your education classes with other education majors, you are probably better at discussing, or you have those natural discussion skills. Not all of us, but it's more common. When a teacher asks a question in most of your upper level classes, people will answer it, right? And so we're not used to asking questions and then not getting the types of answers that we want from students. And so that lesson plan that just says discuss chapter 2 of Gatsby or discuss as a whole class, it's not really good enough until you get to the point where it is good enough, where that your class will respond appropriately. And the other concern with that type of just free-for-all, free-form, whole class discussion is that you'll tend to find that, the same 5 students are participating, the same 3 students are participating, and the other students are sort of just sitting there. Are they absorbing it? Are they learning from it? You really have no way of knowing if they're not speaking, or if you're not asking them to reflect on it, something like that. So in addition to reading chapter 7, and when you do read this chapter, I really want you to read the standards. So, Gallagher lays out the standards at the very beginning of the chapter, and I want you to think about, okay, Gallagher says the type of just having a whole class discussion is not deep enough practice. How do the Common Core standards define good speaking and listening skills? What speaking and listening skills do we want our students to have? What types of speaking and listening skills do they need in the real world? That phrase in today's real world. And how can we as teachers provide that type of deep practice that's really skills focused? And what are those specific, like when we say we want people to be good speakers and listeners, like what specifically are we even talking about when we say that? Read chapter 7, make sure you pay careful attention to the standards, keep those questions in mind. And then I'm also posting an article that's one of my favorites. It's from Cult of Pedagogy, and it's about what the author calls the fisheye discussion sort of problem, which I sort of talked about, right? Which is where only a few students in the class are tending to participate. So that's one of my favorite articles for beginning educators. So please do give it a good, careful read. After you've read Gallagher 7 and then this new article, I'm going to post some links for you to sort of like compiled discussion types of strategies. So when you say discuss chapter 2, what are some actual structured ways that you can go about that to solve some of these problems, to give deeper practice, and to expect, encourage, require involvement from all of your students, so that all of your students are getting the discussion practice, or the speaking practice, and the listening practice that we want them all to have, and like hold them accountable for that, right? So how do we do that? What are some strategies, some ways that we can set up discussion so that they're running smoothly and resulting in the really deep types of literacy practice that we want our students to have? So that's what to expect for the Gallagher lesson this week. Of course, also you're working on your topic proposals. Not topic proposals, your program proposals. And I would like for the final drafts of those to be submitted, the complete drafts to be submitted by this coming Monday, the following Monday after this one, which will be 4/27. Of course, sooner is better on that. That way I can take a look through them and bounce them back to you if I see anything that's missing with those, okay? So I hope you all have a great week. Let me know if questions come up. I will ask you to, as you're looking through the strategies for discussion, pick one. Read through the links that I post, and you'll pick one that you really like, that you can see yourself using in the classroom, that you want to put in your toolkit. And remember, when you are doing lesson plans, and that you think, sort of Gallagher would put his stamp of approval on. He would say, or you believe this is deep, good, important type of speaking and listening practice. And I will ask you to share that. I'm not quite sure yet how. Could be a discussion board. Hopefully we can Zoom, and I can ask you all to sort of talk about the strategy that you chose. And then we will be adding that to the strategy chart as well, where we've been compiling reading strategies, writing strategies, and now we'll have speaking and listening strategies. Okay, so hope you're all doing well. I hope you're hanging in there and, keep up the good work. We're in the home stretch. We can do this. Let me know if you have questions or concerns. Bye.